So you probably watched our last video where we talked about the features of the MagForce SE clutch. Now this is a twin disc race type clutch that's actually pretty streetable for what it is. If you've ever driven the metal puck twin disc clutch on the street before with old technology, you've probably known it was noisy, chatters, and it's really grabby. Really hard to drive smoothly, especially like on the street, like in traffic and things like that. So we've been running this MagForce SE in the E46 BMW. It's kind of a lower horsepower car, so maybe it didn't need all the clamp pressure and all that on the pressure plate. So in the meanwhile, McLeod came out with a smoother driving, even more streetable version of the SE for more street biased. I mean, it still has all the cool features of the SE that we talked about in our other video, but it has a couple of different changes to make the clutch a little bit more friendly on the street. The first thing you could see is the diaphragm spring is softer and more progressive. This is going to give you a lighter clutch pedal. And the other thing you could see is the fulcrum point of the diaphragm spring is moved back. This way your throwout bearing has more leverage on the spring, so when the spring moves the pressure ring, you have a little bit more mechanical advantage. This also gives you a longer engagement travel too, so you have more room to play with the clutch when you're kind of slipping it when you're starting from a dead stop. So it's easier on the pedal, even more friendly, more engagement travel, easier to drive. It has a little bit less clamping force, so maybe a little bit less torque capacity, but I mean, this one can hold 700 horsepower easy. So if you lose a little bit, if you have a lower power car, this is probably the better choice for you. So if you're running naturally aspirated, this one's a no-brainer. The rest of the clutch is pretty unchanged. We have the strap-driven floater plate, which is really the secret of this thing's streetability. With the strap drive, the floater plate can't rattle and make all that annoying noise like you get with most twin discs. And it kind of gives you an extra step in the engagement, so you have more cush when you're engaging. And you know, like cush is what the solid puck discs don't have, so it gives you a more easy step into the engagement. We talked about this in the last video, so if you're interested, you can follow the link below and see the first video. In this more street-friendly version of the MagForce SE, the disc, the friction material, the pucks are a little bit more street-friendly. They have a little bit less metal content, and they're more ceramic and carbon. This is like smoother. It doesn't grab quite as good at really high temperatures, but for day-to-day driving, it's a smoother compound. So weeks gone by, we got the clutch in the car, and what do you think, Bo? Time for a test drive?
Sounds good to me.
All right, let's do this.
All right, test drive time.
Wow, that actually feels really smooth. Just backing out of the shop.
This is no throttle right now. It's just only clutch.
Well, it's not all jumping around.
All right, so this is always the tough part. So I'm just gonna try to get no throttle too. That's just me just letting the clutch out on the hill.
Wow, for a metal disc, I mean, it's juddering a little bit, but...
Yeah, if you just hold it kind of at one spot, like you can get a little judder, but I mean, it's pretty good.
All right, here we go out into traffic.
I'll just kind of warm up the engine a little bit. I have to relearn to drive this car after messing with the other one now.
What kind of shifter is that?
So this is a CAE shifter. So these kind of just make some noise. So that's one kind of, I mean, I do like it for the track, but it's a little much on the street, you know? You really, with a lighter clutch, and I kind of have it set to drop revs pretty fast, you do have to be pretty quick with it. But the biggest thing I really like about this clutch compared to other sort of similar types of twin disc or race clutches I've had is you don't really have to be all that careful around the friction point at full throttle.
Mhm.
So you could just kind of, as you're doing a quick shift, especially when you're on track and you can't be paying attention as much to being perfect with the clutch, is you could just basically just let the clutch out and it just shifts, and it's almost like it just has a very smooth engagement. Whereas other ones, you get a lot of sort of like lash in the drivetrain, I guess, because it's engaging so suddenly. But this one just seems to just have enough, almost like of a cushion, that it makes it really nice to drive.
Wow, even from the passenger seat, it feels pretty amazing. It wasn't bad before.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely pretty smooth.
Let me try it. I want to see what it feels like. Okay, well this shifter's really nice and direct. I really like that. So here goes nothing. Wow.
Nice. First try.
Yeah, I mean this thing's, the clutch might even be lighter than stock.
It is, I think, yeah. Which at first was a little weird, but I actually kind of like it.
So that's cool, a race clutch that I don't even have to get used to one bit.
That's pretty good. You just jumped right in it.
It was way easier than the stock clutch on the Evo, right?
That's true.
Wow, this clutch is super impressive. Like the pedal is actually lighter than the stock E46 clutch. And here's the touch point.
And it's got enough, I don't know what the term before it really is, but the range is sort of when it initially starts to engage to full engagement is wide. So the friction point is wide, which I like. You know, it doesn't have a very narrow friction range.
I mean, almost no judder. You would have to try to make it judder.
Yeah.
Man, your car is fun.
You should give it some revs in second gear. It's mostly warmed up now.
This is easy. I didn't expect an NA car to spin the wheels.
With big tires too. I think I have the traction control actually turned off in the ECU right now, but.
Oh man, this car is fun. I could get used to this really quick. But that's a typical of a BMW of this era. Like it's very, you feel at home right away.
It's true. They are relatively easy to drive. Just the chassis is they're really balanced, which is, of course, a good thing. But you know, if you're really trying to learn how to be a good driver, you can get away with a lot of stuff in this chassis. You know, compared to say an S2000 or something.
So twin disc clutch and solid hub, metal. I didn't even install it once.
Yeah, first try, no problems. It's pretty good.
Normally
Really?
these cars you stall it at least once, getting used to it, right?
Yeah, and they actually have factories is surprisingly stiff pedal. You know, it's stiffer than most cars. So even on a factory one, if you're sitting in traffic with the clutch in a lot, you know, you might start to feel it. But this one is just light enough. All right, I'm really happy with it. Because if you go too light, it's hard to drive, I think, right? Because you don't have any feel.
That's kind of like how my EP3 is.
Okay. And you know, you do hear a little bit of the gear lash at idle, but I mean, I've been in other M3s of the same generation with like a light flywheel but a single plate, and they're definitely louder than this. So I don't know how McLeod did it, but it's quiet.
There's no floater rattle at all, huh? I mean, normally a twin disc, you really hear the floater chatter.
Right.
I don't even hear it.
I think that's from that. They have the straps.
Yeah.
That strap technology, which seems to really work. But then you normally have the famous Getrag rattle with the clutch pedal out. But this one, it seems really nice, considering there's no rubber in this car really, other than the engine mounts. Everything else is spherical bearings, so it's not too bad. Yeah, just go straight.
So we have to creep going up the driveway. A little bit of judder there,
Yeah.
but we're really putting.
Yeah, and you get used to that. If you hold it just the right spot, you can get it to judder a little bit. I mean, that's pretty quiet. You know, for these cars, that's really quiet.
I mean, this clutch is pretty awesome. Like, the pedal effort is pretty amazingly low. I mean, you can make it judder, but I mean, it's super easy to drive smooth. I mean, I think a lot of stock cars actually have hard to drive clutches.
I would say so, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like the Evo that we're just driving, that stock clutch was harder to deal with than this.
Right. I mean, you literally jumped immediately into this from a stock single plate clutch into this car, a twin plate, you know, quote unquote race clutch, and drove away immediately, which is pretty good.
And I drive a car with a twin plate organic that's designed to be streetable. This clutch actually has a lighter pedal, and it actually engages slightly smoother. Just the organic is a little bit harder to make judder, but I mean, it's subtle differences. And I mean, this is like a race clutch that's surprisingly streetable, and the other clutch is like a street clutch that can hold a surprising amount of torque for the pedal effort.
Right, exactly.
So it's two different kind of clutches, but man, I'm really impressed.
Cool.
I mean, I could daily drive this all day.
Yep. Yeah, especially if you had minutes to get used to it. So you spend a little bit of time, you get really familiar with it. And you can hear the little bit of noise, but to me it's really quiet. I mean, if you push the clutch in,
Yeah, right there.
I mean, that's all you hear, and that's pretty quiet to me.
I love that's the aluminum case. It grows, so the input shaft bearing starts to get a little bit more rattly, but it's normal for almost any aluminum case tranny.
Right, okay. And especially these Getrags are notorious for it.
I mean, some transmissions, like some Nissan ones, have a planetary input shaft, like lash taker upper tensioner thing.
Okay.
That's specifically to reduce this noise, but yeah, I mean, that's not indicative of any problem.
Sure. Plus, of course, the factory is a dual mass, so they obviously knew there was an issue they had to address, right? So we've removed that, which gives you a lot of advantages, but the slight disadvantage, you get the noise, but that will happen with any clutch. But somehow this clutch, it just seems quieter than any of the other cars I've been in that get rid of the dual mass. So
but I mean, like, great clutch. This is a really great car. I mean, I haven't driven the car this fun for a while. And I mean, I wish I could have, like, I think if I drove it for 10 minutes more, I'd be totally used to it.
for sure, yeah.
But yeah, McLeod did a great job, and wow, this thing's streetable. Thank you for letting me drive it.
Thanks for taking me around. That was fun. I don't usually have a lot of people drive it, so that was a cool experience.
All right, good job, McLeod. Yep. So if you like this video and you like our content, be sure and subscribe. If you want us to do some consulting or work on your car, to go to MotoIQ.com, fill out the garage services form. If you go to MotoIQ, we have thousands of tech articles that you can read about just about any subject. And until next time, I guess we'll see you next time.